Wanted to have a fun topic today. The two most common questions I get from social media are obviously on the fundraise side of things, how much to raise, how much for evaluation. And then the other one is a constant reminder that I need to update my profiles because for a brief period of time I was training to compete in long drive competitions, which was certainly fun and garners a lot of questions, mostly around how far can you drive, and I would say that I've have some that were over 400 yards. I was never up to the point of the pros who can consistently do it. And when I say consistently, no disrespect to the long drive competitors out there, but a consistent 400 yards is hardly consistent by most golfer standards. But it garners a question. Everyone thinks that the big bombs are great on the golf course, and it's impressive, and one, it's hard on your body, very hard on your body, and almost as hard on your wallet too, with clubs and breaking faces and things like that. So I won't get into that. But the 400 yard plus drive really is a simile or a metaphor for the early stage companies that want to raise big dollar values as well. Everyone wants to swing for the fences or swing for the 400 yards, but when you're early on, there are a lot of issues even if you are successfully able to raise that money, down the road you're going to run into plenty of issues. And an example that I always give in the long drive reference is a 400 yard drive in terms of course management isn't always the best case. Let's take, for example, a par 4, 425 yards. Your average amateur is probably landing, if it was a good shot, middle of the fairway. Average pro, probably getting up close to the green. And yeah, sure, if you're over 400 yards, you might get to the green, but it's the consistency of that distance traveled, if you're landing in the trees or if you're landing out of bounds. I always say 220 yard drives or a 225 yard drive plus a long 4 or 5 iron gets you much further than a 400 yard with a drop. So it's less shots to get there, even though the 400 yard drive was impressive. If it's not on the fairway, or if it's not in play, or if it's not within a course management, it was nothing but a long drop. So yeah, 400 yard drive out of bounds, you're still dropping a ball and you're behind the person who did the 220 yard drive and is probably putting it onto the green. So in a course management style, smaller increments can get you a lot further, more effectively, and get you a better end result than a big long, or in this case a large fundraise round. So everyone wants to skip the seed round and go directly into $750,000, $1 million, $2 million, because they know that that's what they eventually need. But incrementally, if you can get a pre-seed round or a seed round or a friends and family round that can get you to that next step, proof the concept, whether it's MVP or getting it into market, and then raising another round at likely a higher valuation, is a lot like that course management of, okay, we are here now, we need to get here for our MVP and for our next step. Don't overthink it and try to think of your Series A or a full-on seed round that is likely at higher valuation. If you need to move yourself forward to gain traction, gain revenue, execute on some smaller opportunities before you get into that later stage round, that's a better strategy, and course management is the metaphor, than trying to convince someone or trying to find someone who could go for that big bomb, who understands the earliest stage concept to go right into the 7 figures or the whatever that seed round may be. And another point is, distance is irrelevant if you haven't set yourself up for the next shot, and that's a pool and billiards strategy as well. So and golf and its course management. Every sport has its strategy that is, you know, really tied into, you know, current shot and also your next shot. So if 400 yards puts you into the water, obviously that's no good. If 400 yards puts you into the out of bounds or into the trees, that's not a great shot. Course management might say, you know, if my drive is going to land me in this water, I'll probably go short of it, have an easier shot to your next fairway and then onto the green, versus taking your chance at flying the creek or whatever water hazard I've drawn here. If you can't exceed it, then, you know, you're gonna have to choose how to get to your next shot, and your next shot is your next round. So if you overshoot your valuation on your first round, that next round is going to be nearly impossible to do a fundraise, because you're going to be looking at down rounds. You're going to be constantly searching for the right person who could potentially fix your previous rounds, and we talked about that yesterday in considering your earlier rounds and valuations. So the 400-yard drive, even the 300s, like the average person is not even in the 300s, is impressive, but it's only impressive on the long drive grid, where you've got an extra, almost double amount of yardage in width, where you can maybe keep it in bounds. And if you watch any of those competitions, very few of them actually are in bounds and over 400 yards. So the inconsistency of a long distance drive is not really worth it when you're playing in a fairway that's likely in the 25 to 35, maybe 40 yard width, and then you've got factored in hazards and things like that. So long story short, big moves are only good if it fits within a strategy and the game plan of your business, of your sport, of your ecosystem that you're in. So really understanding what you're raising and why you're raising it, you can sort of knock off, you know, a pre-seed round and then a seed round that's got a better valuation. You can move into a Series A. Now, I'm not the type of person that likes that constant fundraising that people, you know, there's been proof that doesn't necessarily work. I won't mention names, but I'm sure we've all seen it. But being strategic about when you raise, how much you raise, and how far that raise takes you could allow you to constantly be moving forward versus renegotiating rounds and and trying to buy out stock and everything like that. So manage your course, manage your fundraises like you would manage yourself on a course or on a pool table, and consider every next step along the way, because that big fundraise isn't necessarily going to make much of a difference if you can't execute on the next shot.